Hello, my name is Blake Patterson, and welcome to Real Values. On this week's episode, I discuss Paul Thomas Anderson's One Battle After Another. When reviews and tweets were released for Paul Thomas Anderson's latest film, I was surprised and skeptical about how high the opinions were for the film, from a very positive score on Metacritic to blurbs like the best of the decade or a new landmark in the way we regard a mainstream achievement like Jaws. The status was so extreme that it could have been interpreted as critical overkill for the general public, since it is a non-IP with an expensive budget, at least $130 million. It is easy to understand the heightened praise as One Battle After Another evolves. Although it might not be the movie of the decade or similar blurbs, One Battle After Another is a solidification of why Anderson is a contemporary master in American filmmaking. Like one of his heroes, the late Jonathan Demme, Anderson has established himself as a versatile filmmaker when considering how different One Battle After Another, Licorice Pizza, Inherent Vice, and Punch Drunk Love are from his most prominent phases of filmmaking, such as the early Altman-Scorsese period and the Kubrick period. While films like Punch Drunk Love and Inherent Vice have Altman in their DNA, Anderson's career remains difficult to categorize, and this is part of what makes One Battle After Another a fascinating addition to his filmography. From dollies to close-up shots, it is as if Anderson has learned from the skills he has developed over the years to create a multi-layered epic where satire, drama, and action blur together into a unique and satisfying vision that conveys flashes of films as eclectic as Dr. Strangelove and Running on Empty. Within the first 5 minutes, audiences will know what kind of movie they are seeing until Anderson subverts his conventions and coheres the tones. During a rescue at a detention center in California, Anderson introduces us to the French 75, a far-left group of revolutionaries, through Ghetto Pat Calhoun and Perfidia Beverly Hills, played by Leonardo DiCaprio and Tiana Taylor, and how they function within the mission. What initiates the film's eventual conflict is when Perfidia encounters and humiliates Captain Stephen J. Lockjaw, played by Sean Penn, in a way that arouses him sexually. Anderson builds up the sequence comedically with a visible erection through Lockjaw's pants, and he suggests a gradual exploration of how Perfidia and Lockjaw share an alpha energy that transcends their basic differences. The development is hilarious on one level, but the wit is tinged with tragedy when regarding Perfidia's subsequent relationship with Ghetto Pat. Lockjaw's obsession with her, to the point of her agreeing to have sex with him to continue her role as a revolutionary, and how their sex leads unexpectedly to her role as a mother, which she does not want to be. At one moment in the first quarter, Perfidia is referred to as a runner, and the description is valid in recognizing Perfidia's fierce independence when she chooses not to settle into family life with Ghetto Pat, who thinks her baby, Charlene, is their daughter for the rest of the film. As she continues her life as a revolutionary, Perfidia gets into trouble and contradicts their initial code about not hurting people when she murders a security guard at a bank. The botched bank robbery leads to her arrest, where Lockjaw sets up a deal for her to avoid prison and enter witness protection if she reveals members of the French 75. As Ghetto Pat and Charlene go into hiding as Bob and Willa Ferguson, Perfidia escapes Lockjaw's custody and flees to Mexico. On the surface, the dynamic between political revolutionaries and law enforcement might sound superficial in a generalized view. Although he sympathizes with the revolutionaries more than the oppressive system in place, Anderson is honest about both sides by emphasizing what makes them human beyond their extremism. Even though we laugh at the bigoted and warped nature of Lockjaw and how awful he is to people, Anderson and Penn make his deluded aspiration to be with Perfidia believable as much as the shame and angst he feels later when he attempts to become a member of a secret society of white supremacists called the Christmas Adventurers Club. From Perfidia's devolution to Bob's abuse of alcohol and drugs, Anderson never depicts their extreme lifestyle in purely heroic terms, and acknowledges how their addiction to the highs of aggression and violence, especially with Perfidia and her affair with Lockjaw, can result in further damage. Bob has become a variation of Jeff Bridges's The Dude, and is completely out of touch with the modern world as much as he is with Willa, whose isolated existence and familial history remain an enigma despite the stories Bob tells her. The satirical edges of the adult characters and the lives they live would be fitting in a contemporary future of Dr. Strangelove if the bombs had not exploded. Even with its bitingly absurdist wit, Anderson and his gifted ensemble transcend any possibilities of caricature by delving into the insecurities and self-destructive qualities of the characters. Inspired rather than based on a Thomas Pynchon novel, One Battle After Another is as complicated in its political substance as Inherent Vice, but the humor and pathos are more successful in execution. For many viewers, the topics of political activism, immigration, and racial cleansing will feel palpably relevant during One Battle After Another. The overwhelming threat of our current administration and its intentions will likely provoke audiences to think about how Anderson explores these matters through his characters. Despite these parallels, One Battle After Another is the kind of sociopolitical satire that will still be amusing and resonant 10 or 20 years from now because it is not didactic and shallow in its writing and direction. Another reason Anderson's portrait of contemporary America is rewarding is that it demonstrates how a gifted artist can critique sociopolitical issues maturely rather than having the smug detachment of a film as ignorant and obnoxious as Eddington. Anderson cares enough about what is happening in America to provide a nuanced response through his vision instead of spending the entire movie talking about how quote-unquote apolitical he is. The dialogue is also more clever in how it establishes the characters' ideologies without explicitly repeating them. This distinction concerning Anderson's tone toward his characters and their conflicts is also indicative of what he learned from Demme and Altman when watching their satires. To make the characters feel emotionally authentic within their satirical variation of America, each actor approaches their character as a person by understanding their values and believing in their motivations. Through the characterization of Bob or Ghetto Pat, DiCaprio incorporates what he has learned from his previous comedic work, especially Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, to convey how his character has aged and mentally deteriorated over the years against the constant paranoia of what could happen to him and Willa. DiCaprio makes us laugh at Bob's forgetfulness and physical incompetence, but we empathize with his motivation to find and protect Willa from Lockjaw and others. As Perfidia, Taylor excels in capturing her power and appeal as a revolutionary before showing the cracked surfaces of Perfidia's vulnerable side. Newcomer Chase Infinity is convincing as a teenager living in a frustrated existence where all her questions remain a mystery and gradually contribute to her angst when Regina Hall's Deandra, a French 75 member, appears at a high school dance before a raid happens to protect her. Infinity works fluidly with and against DiCaprio and Penn in her scenes with them individually by making her character's behavior and existence confront what is wrong about Bob and Lockjaw's past and present. As a corrupt man who has gone from being a captain to a colonel in the U.S. military, Penn's portrayal of Lockjaw might be the standout among the cast only because Penn has had a history of giving self-conscious performances where you can see and feel him acting with a capital A. Through the animalistic and broken psychology of Lockjaw, Penn delivers a performance that reminds you of his skills when inhabiting a character through every moment without winking at the camera or showing off. From Benicio del Toro to Tony Goldwyn, the ensemble commits to the tonal rhythm and atmosphere of Anderson's vision without bordering on excess. Considering how the frog storm in Magnolia and the truck scene in Licorice Pizza showed Anderson's potential for choreographing action set pieces, Anderson proves the possibility through how he stages and edits the most significant set pieces by treating the camera as an active participant and pacing the speed of the events carefully to build tension. The car chase in the last third of the film is seamlessly choreographed from different angles, including a hood mount shot, to illustrate how Willa creates a trap for the man, John Hugenocker as Tim Smith, a member of the Christmas Adventurers Club, trying to assassinate her. There is a tendency for most action filmmakers to go into overdrive with their set pieces, which can be exhausting for the viewer. However, Anderson calibrates the pace of every scene and how they unfold. Johnny Greenwood's score heightens the tension of a sequence when necessary and at the precise volume to provoke a reaction. In the film's smaller moments, Anderson's camera is active in his presentation of social or familial dysfunction within an interior setting, even if it is at a slightly lower speed than the action-oriented sequences. Part of the film's surprises comes from how Anderson withholds visual cues until a significant outcome occurs for a character. Two of these moments happen when Smith attempts to murder Lockjaw and when the Christmas Adventurers Club ultimately kills him under the guise of being accepted as a new member. Anderson also elegantly explains character details by juxtaposing two shots to develop meaning about how the character is or where they are now, especially through the 16-year transition of Willa as a baby and a teenager. Anderson's thoughtful consideration of cinematography and editing through his work with Michael Bauman and Andy Jurgensen is rewarding in what it reveals about the characters and how they function within Anderson's thematic framework. In every decision Anderson makes narratively, one battle after another never goes where we expect, especially in a PTA film. There is suspense in not knowing where Anderson will take his characters structurally in their journey and what actions they will commit. When we consider the narrative of a father protecting his daughter, Anderson recognizes and subverts those conventions credibly by placing them within the fabric of what his characters know or do not know. Willa's choice not to reveal how her real father is Lockjaw to Bob is on one level a matter of considering Bob as her father due to their past together, but also as a way of protecting what Bob believes to be true in his position as a middle-aged man. If Bob realized Willa was not his daughter, the recognition would be unimaginable because of the various ways he could respond. Willa's decision is also in sync with Anderson's view of her becoming a political revolutionary to achieve the dream of an America her mother and Bob could not. By choosing hope over devastation, Anderson believes in young people and what they could change for the better in America. As a result, Anderson succeeds in making us believe in his aspiration amid the chaos and devastation of American life. Thank you for watching this video. Have a great night.